Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the Puerto Vallarta airport. A few weeks ago, probably over a month ago now, I made a video about what it's like in Puerto Vallarta, what precautions are being taken for COVID, what the situation looks like, what's open, what's not open. And a lot of you asked in the comments and by email what the airport situation was like. I tried to show it when I flew back to Puerto Vallarta again on my way to Sayulita, but again it was really more about my flight with Aeromexico than it was about the airport. So I was determined on the way back to Mexico City from Sayulita that I would try and pay attention. I would take a lot of clips and show you exactly what the airport looks like right now, what the experience was, and really zero in on the airport experience in Puerto Vallarta for those of you that are planning on coming and going in the next few weeks or months, and just fill you in on the situation there. So that is what this video is about. So I've heard from some friends who live over in the Yucatan, near Merida and Cancun, that at the Cancun airport they are checking your temperature when you come into the airport. That hasn't been my experience with any of the airports that I've been to in the last few months, not at Mexico City, not in Guadalajara, and certainly not in Puerto Vallarta. There is no temperature check system happening as you enter. Most of the airports, when you go through security, have these heat scanners, I guess, and I saw it at Puerto Vallarta and I saw it again at Mexico City. So they're like doing major scans of your body as you go through, and I think that is instead of having your temperature checked. As far as check-in, if you have the ability to check in on your phone, that would be my preference. I got a super budget ticket, so I had to go check in at the counter. But overall, I felt like the experience was pretty good, as good as Aeromexico would do it. Every check-in counter at the airport has these big circles on the ground. They're all 1.5 meters apart. Everyone was abiding by those rules at check-in. And once you get to the front desk, there are these sort of plastic partitions now with a little hole, so you can pass your passport, you can get your ticket, and that is also where you'll find the barcode that you need to scan, the sort of QR code that you have to scan in order to do the contact tracing. So this is at every airport in Mexico, whether you are flying domestically or you're flying internationally, you need to fill out these forms. Most of them are on your phone. If you don't have data or there's no Wi-Fi at one of the airports you're traveling through, there are paper forms that you can fill out. But you need to have this form to get through security. I don't remember if they checked it to board the plane or not, but definitely to get through security. And sometimes, if you're landing in another part of Mexico, they may ask for it. I basically just took a screenshot of the barcode with the information. It's sort of the first part that you get to as you scroll down. There's a QR code and your name, and that's what I screenshotted, and that seemed to be enough for everyone to let me carry on. So yeah, that's the sort of check-in experience at the moment. So when I left Puerto Vallarta, I flew on a Sunday morning. The flight was at 11:40, I believe. So there were a fair few flights before mine, 20, 30 minutes before mine, and there were plenty that were going to be coming after mine. But the airport was still pretty quiet. It seems like most people are only showing up maybe an hour and a half before their flight, because the process is still so quick, even though there are sort of extra checks to go through. I thought that we got through very quickly. Probably from the moment we walked into the airport until we were sat at our gate was maybe 40 minutes, probably less because we stopped for coffee. But it's a super quick process, so people aren't getting to the airport super early to hang out. However, everything in the airport is open. The restaurants were open, all the little fast food places. There's a Starbucks before you go through security, there's a Starbucks after you go through security, so don't get your coffee before. I gambled on it. I was nearly certain that I remembered there was a Starbucks through security, and there was. So if you're flying earlier, you'll get your coffee after you go through security, and then you can take it on the airplane. This is obviously very important to me. So I thought I would pass it on to those of you who are curious what's through the other side as well. Through security, you can get food and water and coffee, and there's a Subway and there's a Sbarro pizza place all through security. So yeah, you can have food before you get on the plane and take drinks with you onto the plane as well. I checked the departures board of the airport because I was just curious how often flights were going out of the airport, and it seems pretty regular. Flights, international flights, domestic flights are all on time and are all going, and yeah, it's definitely, if not back to normal, it's back a bit more than it was, say, in June when I flew to Manzanillo, and flights were sparse. So yeah, flights are definitely coming back. There's a lot more international flights arriving in Puerto Vallarta and a lot more international flights leaving Puerto Vallarta. So yeah, a lot more people moving through the airport in general. The only time where it got a little bit close, well, not the only time, but the time that I noticed the most was when we were waiting to go through security. So first you go through like the heat cameras, or you go past the heat cameras, and then of course, like any time that you fly, you have to show your boarding pass and your passport or ID to the person, the security person, and then they pass you on and show you which line to go in to have your bag scanned. But they also wanted to make sure that everyone had the barcode or had filled out the contact tracing form. A lot of people had gotten to this point and still hadn't, so there was a bit of a bottleneck, people like standing to the side but still in the line, filling it out on their phones. Everyone was sort of crowding together because they just wanted to get through. We tried to keep our distance as much as we could. Obviously, everyone is wearing masks. Every single person has it on properly, and there are people, I did see someone who worked at the airport ask the person to put mask properly because they had it up under their nose, so it is being followed to a certain extent in that sense. But yeah, that was just something that I noticed and I thought I would pass on to you. So make sure that before you get to security, you've filled out your contact tracing form so that you don't add to the buildup of people standing, idling. The other place in the airport, and this isn't just the Puerto Vallarta problem, this is something that I've seen since this whole pandemic started and we flew way back in June to get out of the city, is that all of the airports have like sectioned off different seats so that you're not sitting next to a stranger. So there's 2 seats that are available, and then the next seat has like a big sticker on it and says, no, you can't sit here. So there's less seating at gates, which means everyone is standing crowded together, waiting to board the plane, especially when you're just about to board or when boarding has just started. It's just a bit of a kerfuffle with keeping distance because they are boarding the planes in a socially distanced way. You know, pretty much every experience that I've had, they're boarding people from the back so that you can, those people are getting on the plane, and then the next group gets on the plane, and then the next group gets on the plane, and you're not like crowding each other. And the same thing when you get off the plane, which is great. It's all, forevermore, we should disembark planes this way. It's quicker, I think. But yeah, so we're like, because there's not enough seating, we're all standing around the entrance. So if you've flown before, in the last few months, I'm sure you've seen this pretty much everywhere. But it's definitely something that I've noticed here in Mexico, and something that I find a little bit curious. So yeah, that was my experience flying in Puerto Vallarta, in and out. I hope this was helpful for those of you that are trying to consider what your next move will be, what the situation looks like here just in general. If you usually call Puerto Vallarta home at this time of year, I totally understand the heartbreak of obviously what's happening and the indecision and the weight of the decision of trying to decide whether or not to come down here. So yeah, I just want to help you as much as I can to make those decisions and to give you a reality, a real life look at what's really happening here. That's what I've been trying to do all summer since I've started making these videos and moving around a little bit more within Mexico. So yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any other questions about flying in general, about flying with Aeromexico, in the last few months I've also flown with Volaris and Aeromar, and I believe soon I will be flying with Viva Aerobus, which I've warmed to, I'll be honest, but I'll be interested to see what protocols they take, and I'll definitely be sharing them with you. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any more videos about what's happening here in Mexico right now. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments below. I hope that I can answer them to the best of my abilities, and I will see you next time. Bye!